Mike, you want to turn on your mic?
Turn on your mic.
Please.
Mike, turn on your mic. Not yet.
Mr. Kasdorf, we are
Red
ready
lights.
to go.
There you go.
This meeting will come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
Benjamin.
Here.
Veronic.
Here.
Baylor.
Here.
Kasdorf.
Here.
Holman.
Here.
Sardina.
Here.
Is there anyone desiring to be heard? None. Oh, yes. If you could come to the microphone and just state your name and address, please, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Bob Johnson, 5130 North 127th Street, right down by the park, close to you. I was talking to Bill at Coffee with the Cop last week about these mini bikes flying through our neighborhoods down there, and they're not stopping. They're loud, and I just followed them all the way up here. I think they shot up Hampton. But I got them on camera. I videotaped them running a stop sign loud. Last night it was 10 after 8. Can't keep the windows open. Got to keep them shut. Sit out in the yard trying to entertain. I got earplugs. If you need them, go down by the park. But here's some earplugs to put in. It's loud. I guess that's my complaint. Last year I called, talked to the police department. You know, this is a follow-up. Now here it is a year later, and now it escalated. It's even worse. I think there's 6 troublemakers. I think some are homemade bikes, not quite sure. They are loud. And I'd like to see something pass finally before they get hurt. They're running a stop sign. Someone's going to hit them.
No helmets.
No helmets.
They do
I've
run with
seen
no
them.
helmets.
And then what's
And they're
gonna
all
happen?
young.
Now the board will pass something, but then it'll be too late.
Mm.
So that's it. All I need to say.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
I'll direct those comments over to the police department, but we are familiar with those mini bikes and I hear them as well.
And
So-
they're on the dog
Yeah.
walk as well. I've seen them in there.
Is
as
there
well.
anyone else desiring to be heard? None. Consent agenda? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. Go ahead, Tom.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
A motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Any communications other than the department reports?
No, sir.
Thank you. Committee reports, building board.
Building board met this evening at 5:40. We approved an occupancy permit for Smash Zone LLC located at 12500 West Hampton Avenue. We also approved a shed permit for Ryan Swanton located at 12744 West Peck Place. And we tabled a fence permit for Cortland Avenue LLC located at 12625 West Cortland Avenue. End of report.
Thank you. Community events.
Community events met on the 22nd of last month. We discussed the parade organization. We looked into the fireworks and tried to see what we could do to help that. And we discussed the purchase of a new sound system. And there's the report.
Thank you. Report of the administrator.
We have started the 2026 road paving project and water main replacement. Visi Sewer has started jetting on 124th Street. The water main replacement will begin on May 7th, so I believe that is Thursday. We're going to be putting up the no parking signs along the excavation route. We will hopefully be having the water mains done here within about a month, and then followed by obviously the paving. We're also going to be doing the alleyways on the south side of Hampton between 125th and I believe this is Derby, and then I believe south 2 blocks. We are also getting ready to start the union negotiations. We will be meeting with the union representatives on May 20th. And I believe that we are also getting close to hopefully getting the last fire engine dealt with. FEMA did reopen recently. They did pass a budget for the Department of Homeland Security. So they are now combing through their emails and hopefully we'll get to my emails eventually. I did send a follow-up reminder just yesterday. So hopefully we'll get on track with that soon. End of report.
Just to clarify, that was for the police contract, correct?
Yes, the police union contract.
Thank you. Old business, presentation by Ariana Schmidt on behalf of Ayers on 2026 through 2027 capital funding and discussion and possible action on the options presented. Welcome back.
Yeah. Joe, can you do the lights?
Right, good evening, everyone. This
Good
working
evening.
okay? You hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so I am back as promised to go through a few different scenarios as a follow-up to our last discussion. So I know Ben's getting the presentation up here, but it was in your packet as well. So we're gonna start just with a little bit of recap, and then we'll get into some additional options with the ambulance piece as well. Bear with me, I know it's a long presentation, but there's a lot that comes together, and I think the third scenario we'll get to later really kind of helps to convey the message here. So bear with me, but feel free to ask questions along the way, of course. So again, we're going to review existing debt profile before we look at issuing any new debt, just like we did last time. One other thing I did want to make sure was clear is levy limits in the state of Wisconsin have different aspects. So when you set your budget every year, you have your general fund levy. Oftentimes communities levy for capital if there's room within your budget. And then there's the levy for your debt service payment. That levy for your general obligation debt is not subject to levy limits. So you are legally able to levy whatever amount that you need in order to make that year's principal and interest payment for your outstanding general obligation debt. So just to be clear, that part is exempt from levy limits, and then general and capital are subject to your levy limits. So I just wanted to add that point as well for some clarification. Also, we're going to look at the ambulance proceeds that you have right now from the sale of the ambulance. So we'll talk about some options, including paying off that ambulance loan early, looking at other debt that has a higher interest rate, and then adding those funds to your fund balance. And then we'll talk about your CIP and the impacts of this as well. So we will jump on in. This slide is really meant to just summarize the three scenarios we're going to talk through. But again, I have different slides that will get into each further. So the first scenario that we're going to talk about is kind of what you're at right now with the status quo, where you sold the ambulance, you have those proceeds on hand right now, and right now they're just sitting in your fund balance. So that is an option to do nothing with those proceeds other than contribute those proceeds to your existing fund balance. So what we've got here is laid out what that would do to your unassigned fund balance policy. That policy is to maintain your unassigned portion at about 20 to 25% of your general fund expenditures. So at the time of doing this calculation, we're really looking at your 2026 budgeted expenditures as that kind of reference point. So $2.8 million. There are some assumptions here in which we're assuming obviously that your expenditures are not changing, since we're assuming what you budgeted is the actual. Taking a look at what your 2024 unassigned fund balance was, it's about $650,000 roughly. Take that by your 2026 budgeted expenditures, that gets you to just shy of 23%. So based on those financials, you are right within your policy that you need to be. We take a look at your estimated 2025 unassigned fund balance. This is assuming there's no surplus or deficit from 2025 since we don't have your audit yet. So we're really just taking where you landed in 2024 and adding that roughly $139,000 from the ambulance proceeds to get to about $791,000. Taking that against your same exact 2026 budgeted expenditures, you get to about 28%. So you can see that gets you slightly above your policy, which is not a bad thing, but just kind of wanted to show you if you do nothing else with that proceeds other than add it to your fund balance, this is where you would be at under these assumptions here. So looking at this scenario really takes us to your existing debt profile. Same chart we looked at last time, showing you where your net tax levy is for debt service right now. So I'm going to skip through this one pretty quick since we went through it last meeting. But again, if you have questions, feel free to ask. Slide 6. This is looking at the same exact capital improvement plan we looked at last time. So mainly funding your paving program for 2026. Again, we discussed use of a lot of funds on hand that you have from your borrowed money fund, as well as your 2024 water revenue bond proceeds. So primarily, we are ensuring that you are spending down those proceeds first. Thereafter, any additional funds or monies that would be needed, we have shown as a potential borrowing through a state trust fund loan offered through the BCPL in the state. Additionally, we discussed borrowing some additional funds for 2027 capital projects, which I understand is an agenda item later on the agenda tonight to discuss overall capital strategy. So the amount that we've showed here is the same amount that we discussed last time as a placeholder. That would result in you getting to a level tax impact, which is depicted on the next slide. So again, if you were to levy that additional 275,000 plus the remaining funds that are necessary to fund your CIP for 2026, that would get you to zero change in your net debt service levy, meaning you would not have taxes go up or down for your debt service payments as a result of this from 26 to 27. So that was pretty much everything we talked through at the last meeting at a high level. Now we're going to talk through a couple alternate scenarios that we have not yet discussed. Scenario 2 is taking those proceeds from the ambulance sale and paying down existing debt. Now, the ambulance purchase was made in 2020 with a bank note. There is roughly $105,000 outstanding remaining on that loan, and the interest rate is 1.99%, which is a really good interest rate. Interest rates today are usually in the high 4s, sometimes low 5s. So it's a very, very low interest rate to note. If you pay off this note in full right now, over the life of the loan, you would save roughly $5,300, which is great, right? You want to obviously save that future interest accrual. Annually, you're currently paying roughly $27,000 for this. So this would impact your net debt service levy for 2027 by $27,000, meaning by paying off that loan in full, your net tax levy for the entire village would decrease by $27,000. For a $300,000 home, it's about $22 per year that individual home would be saved. And is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before I keep going?
No, there's nothing that I really have at this time.
And the 27,000, that's both principal and interest.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. And again, it's a 1.99% interest, so it's very low interest annually. So now here what you see is your existing debt profile with the addition of that ambulance payoff. So in that first column, your total general obligation debt payments, we've now incorporated that ambulance loan is no longer outstanding, assuming you pay off that roughly $105,000.
And I guess, Ariane, I just thought of something, just to make a mention right now, the current interest rate in our money markets is a little north of 3.6%. So just to contrast the 1.99 with the 3.6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which very true. But I will say if you look at taking out any new bank loans, they're typically going to be quite a bit higher, closer in the 5s is what we've been seeing a lot of communities have. Some have had some 4s, just depends on a lot of variables. But all that to say, there is an alternate scenario that we discussed at the very end as to if you're looking to pay down debt, is this the best outstanding obligation to pay down, given that it is such a low interest rate, right? You have other debt that has much higher interest rate, which is therefore accruing much higher interest. So as your municipal advisor, we have a fiduciary duty to you to recommend what's best and in your best interest. So even though that wasn't a scenario you asked, it is something that we wanted to present before you tonight that would result in a higher cost savings if paying down debt is the goal of the village with these ambulance proceeds. So again, I'll get to that later, but just kind of foreshadowing that. So taking that kind of as our foundation now, as your existing debt profile with the payoff of the ambulance, we're now layering in your CIP, same CIP that we just looked at, with the exception of we're now increasing that $275,000 that we showed borrowing for the 2027 projects by about $25,000. Reason being because in order to get to a net debt service levy, like what we showed you in scenario 1, because now you're dropping off about $27,000 of annual debt service payments, in order to see a level impact, you would need to borrow roughly that same amount additional, right? So it'd go from $275,000 to borrowing $300,000 for 2027 projects. And this is just to get to the same tax impact goal. So that column in orange, about 2/3 of the way to the right, that says net debt service levy. You can see in 2026, it's about $795,000. Moving to 27, drops by about $1,800. So roughly a level debt service impact through this plan.
And then if we had to do that borrowing, that would likely be at the higher interest rates then.
Correct. That would be,
Then
well,
that-
yes, the new money portion would be at today's interest rates, yes.
Okay.
Which state trust fund loan right now is about 5.75% for 10 years.
Okay.
All right. Scenario 3 kind of brings this all together. So I know we've been talking a lot about a level debt service impact, right, on your levy. So what is really the benefit of keeping that level? So what we've done here is as you incorporate future borrowings into your financing plan, this is where you can be strategic into the tax impact goals. Because if you have a debt service levy drop one year and then you borrow more the next year, that then could go up, right? So we've structured this with a potential capital plan for the next 2 years to show you if you were to borrow in 2027 and 28, how would we layer that all in together to achieve a similar tax impact goal? So we know typically the village borrows between $1 and $1.5 million a year for projects. This year is an exception, of course, because you have so much funds available from prior borrowings that we're applying. In yellow here, you will see the additional columns that we've added. So for 2027 projects, we're taking about $1.2 million of projects. We're subtracting out the $300,000 you would be borrowing as a part of this year's borrowing. And then we're also subtracting out the additional funds that we're projecting will be in your borrowed money fund that are not spent down this year. So all that to say you'd be borrowing an additional roughly $694,000 in 2027. So we've layered that into the plan, as well as 2028. By 2028, we're assuming your borrowed money funds on hand, your existing debt proceeds will all have been spent down. So if you have a $1.3 million borrowing, this is what it will look like moving forward. Again, 27, 28 are fictitious borrows. These are not tied to any projects. However, I will say by having a multi-year capital improvement plan, these are some of the benefits that you can start to layer this in to help make those strategic decisions. So what does that mean for your tax impact? Taking a look at slide 13 here. So again, you see that 2026 state trust fund loan, first column from the left in orange, no changes from the prior scenarios. Now we've also layered in that 2027 borrowing for that roughly $694,000. And then we've also layered in the 2028 borrowing for the $1.3 million. You can see in 2027, there's some larger maturities. We can do that, meaning you're saving on interest costs by only needing 3 years of debt service because you have that opportunity in your debt service levy drop, right? If you recall on the prior slides, while from 26 to 27, it's a level impact. The year after, you have a large drop in about the 300,000 range. So now we can issue new debt, layer in that first maturity in 2028. So again, you see that level tax impact. So you're borrowing this additional money, being able to pay it down quicker and keep your level tax impact overall. Same thing when we layer in the 2028 general obligation notes. We have this structured till 2035, but again, rather larger maturities. So oftentimes the village has taken out debt for 20 years, which of course incurs additional interest. By having this capacity in your debt service levy, you can layer in this new debt, pay it down quicker, and have future interest savings. So this is just one of the benefits of a multiple capital year planning, which I know will play into Ben's conversation later with you all on the capital improvement planning from here on out. So does that kind of make sense in terms of how the benefits of the level tax impact can kind of play into your future planning and where you're at today? That was one of the key takeaways I wanted to make sure made sense to you all tonight.
Yes.
Okay. So before I get into some wrap up and summaries here, just wanted to show you your general obligation debt capacity, as I know this is always at front of mind since this is limited by statute. Even with the scenario that I just showed you where you're borrowing for the next 3 years, the highest utilization that you get in your geo debt capacity is 42%, meaning you still have a residual roughly $12 million in 2028 after borrowing about $2.5 million for the next 3 years. So that's great news. All to say, even if you had projects that were funded for the utilities, you could still issue this on a general obligation debt basis and have plenty of capacity to do so. So now I'm going to bring it back to that ambulance sale proceeds conversation in terms of, does it make sense to pay off the 2020 bank note that was used to purchase the ambulance that you no longer own? Well, I understand conceptually, makes sense, right? You don't have this ambulance anymore. Why do we want to pay the debt on it? This is case in point as to why it may make sense to pay down other debt with that proceeds that you have on hand. Case in point, you have general obligation bonds from 2018. Interest rate is almost double at about 3.75%. The final two maturities make up about $125,000 of principal payments. So if you pay just those two final maturities with those funds that you have on hand, you would save over the life of the loan about $51,000. Part of that is because when you pay off future maturities, you save on interest costs of the earlier maturities too. So this is not to say you're paying off the bonds in full. The obligation will still be there. It will just be paid off 2 years prior with much less interest over the life of the loan. So that's in comparison to paying off the ambulance bank note. You save $5,000 over the life of the notes. This one you save $51,000. Now I will say within early redemption, as we're showing you with the 2018 GO bonds, there are some slight costs involved in doing so because you're not prepaying the entire bonds, right? You're just paying off those final maturities. Those costs are typically a few $1,000s. We estimated $5,000 on the high side. All that to say, even with those costs, you would still save about $45,000, right? So overall, long-term savings are more beneficial in this case. But again, it's really a policy decision on what the board wants to do with those funds. So I just wanted to present all of the options to you before you tonight, just to make sure that you understand what the options are before you. So timing, I know we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. I did want to provide an updated timeline for a 2026 state trust fund loan and a couple other caveats that I wanted to add. So if you were to decide to proceed with the state trust fund loan for scenario one that we discussed, meaning that you would be issuing that roughly $600,000 for a state trust fund loan, this month we would have to submit to the state the request to structure the debt as we have depicted here today to help layer in that larger maturity payment for the levy portion. Thereafter, we'd submit an application form, bring that back to you all in June to review the application. And then middle of June, June 16th is when you would really consider that sale resolution. After approval, we go through all the logistics to get it to BCPL, who would then review it in July. Depending on mail timing, it'd either be July 7th or July 21st. And then roughly a week after that is when you'd be able to start drawing funds. Now, I know we discussed that you do have up to 4 months to draw on the loan, right? That is true. However, I will add that the funding cycle from BCPL resets August 31st of each year. That means every time you make a draw, you get a new amortization schedule reflective of the total amount of principal you have outstanding, right? Any draw you make after August 31st, they reset the funding cycle to 2028, meaning you don't have any payments due until 28. The scenario we've showed you with issuing this debt, the goal here really was to structure that larger maturity for 2027 so that way you have a level tax impact. By drawing funds after August 31st, you would now be delaying a portion of that. So it'd really be to your advantage if you want to achieve a level tax impact goal to draw all funds down by August 31st. Doesn't mean you have to spend them by August 31st, just means you would need to draw them down from the state, keep those funds on hand, and you can invest those funds to earn interest until you spend them. But that would really be our recommendation is between the approval in mid-July and between August 31st, you would want to draw all the funds that you plan to spend from that loan. Does that make sense? Okay. So to wrap that all up, slide number 17, a couple next steps that we're looking for from you all tonight. Ambulance proceeds, how do you want to handle it? Do you want to keep those funds on hand, do nothing with them as you have today? Do you want to prepay existing debt? And if you do want to prepay existing debt, do you want to pay off the note for the ambulance in full? Or do you want to look at early redemption of those final maturities we showed you for the 2018 bonds? Secondly, looking for direction on the 2026 borrowing alone. So do you want to issue this debt for 2026? If so, do you want to fund it as it's depicted in scenario 1, where you're funding the remaining of the 2026 projects that you do not have funds on hand for, as well as the additional projects for 2027? And if you do want to fund those additional projects for 2027, what amount do you want to borrow for? I showed you 2 scenarios with 275,000 or 300,000. Doesn't mean those are the only options. Those are just the options that get you to a level tax impact. So all that to say, we'll turn it back to you, Ben, for some conversation from here.
I have a question before we start with
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah.
So
So
if we pay off the 125K that's at a high interest rate, what's the new number that we're going to borrow this year? Is it still the 300 or, okay, so that number stays the same if we pay off the ambulance or we pay off the high
Yeah,
interest?
there will be some slight savings in 2027 for that annual payment.
Yeah.
But because it's a 20-year loan, the interest in that 1 year isn't enough to change the amount of
Okay.
capital you need.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're the expert, so what would you recommend to us? Obviously, the 199, it makes sense to hold that,
Mhm.
Sure.
especially with the interest rates that they are today.
Right. In terms of whether you keep those funds in a fund balance or you prepay debt, I would say that's really a policy decision in terms of, do you want to build your fund balance or do you want to pay down debt? If you're looking to pay down debt, I would recommend doing the redemption of the final 2 maturities in the 2018 bonds, because it's going to save you more in interest costs in the long run, right? I mean, paying $105,000 right now to save you $27,000 in payments a year, but only saving you interest of $5K a year is pennies on your budget, right?
Right.
So I would recommend the prepayment of those last 2 maturities of the 2018 bonds in terms of the ambulance proceeds. But again, policy decision on, do you want to prepay debt or do we want to keep those funds on hand? That's a different conversation. And I know, Ben, you have some thoughts on that. I don't know if you wanted to add any context.
I was gonna wait for them to, if they had any other additional questions.
Just that the 2018 bonds, those are the oldest ones we have.
No, but they are the oldest bonds that are callable with a higher interest rate compared to the ambulance.
Got it.
You do have older debt. Not at that interest rate though, and not necessarily callable.
I think the oldest we have is 2016.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think this helps because we didn't have, on the last presentation up to that, we didn't have all the information, or, there's a lot of moving parts on here as well, so.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to start the conversation early, so we could have time to come back, bring you iterations, and give you time to make these decisions.
Well, it makes sense to pay off the older debt first
Mhm.
and carry on with what we've got because of the interest rate.
Right.
Especially the high interest.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did anyone else have any comment or questions?
I'm gonna unplug this now. I'm gonna unplug that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ben, did you have anything more to add? I think it sounds like the board is in consensus with paying off the 2018 bonds.
Yeah, if that's what the board is wanting to do with those funds, then I will have to work with Ellers, because I don't think that we've ever done a budget amendment, but that would require a budget amendment. I believe, would that require, if we're gonna do that this year, would that require a budget amendment, Ariana? Or can we build that into next year?
Yeah, I believe we'll build it into next year, but I want to double check on that and just make sure that there's nothing that you need to amend.
Okay.
So I can get back to you on that.
And to be clear, we're not paying those off, we're just paying down on them.
Correct.
We don't
Paying
have
the
enough-
final 2 maturities.
Yeah.
So it will mature 2 years prior. So
Yeah.
it's called a redemption rather than a prepayment.
Okay.
And I guess my only concern is kind of looping into the kind of into that next conversation under new business, but
We can almost spend it in that. To your point, there's almost $90,000 that's unaccounted for that we're gonna have to come up with
so
for vehicles.
yeah, so my only concern with what we're talking about is I've started to kind of go through the motions of opening up my spreadsheets for the budget, moving, hiding the columns, moving stuff over, doing my preliminary housekeeping. And something just to keep in mind is, again, there's possible movement with regards to the Brookfield Fire Department moving that those charges off of the tax levy and into a special revenue fund. And if that happens, we do have to reduce our tax levy by the amount that we levied for fire protection services in 2013. So that does leave a little bit of an issue there. Plus, this past budget, we were balancing it based off of $100,000 worth of sale of the fire equipment. So that obviously will then go away next year. So there's the potential that we could be looking at a little bit of a financial issue this year, trying to get the capital funds necessary to fund our capital replacements, and also for just the general fund in general. Sorry for the pun. But I guess that's where, if we can, my viewpoint on it is, if we have those funds and we can keep and pad that general fund for the potential of a shortfall in the short term, which again then pairs into the last item on the agenda, because the state is not, in my opinion, properly funding municipalities with shared revenue and transportation aids. And again, we are unable to raise our tax levy beyond the level of net new construction, which last year is 0.07%, which you can't sustain a municipality on 0.07% growth every year in the tax levy. So that's just my concern, is that we have these funds. Yes, we can save the money on the interest. However, that is exempt from levy limits. We can levy that and take care of that. We cannot, however, increase our levy to pay for cops, firefighters, DPW staff, new equipment. We would have to take out more debt for that for the capital equipment, but we can't necessarily take out debt for operations. So that's where we're going to run into an issue at some point if we don't see any type of change from this on the state level. And that's where I'm kind of in a little bit of a hoarding mode of wanting to hoard as much cash as we can in that general fund, in case there comes a time where we might end up in a deficit. So that's kind of my opinion on it. It's the board's decision. Whatever decision, I think that it's the decision's fine, but that's just my concern.
Which basically means the very first one, where we just take the 275 out this year and leave everything else the same, equals a zero tax levy. And that does your concern of keeping a little extra cash in the general fund.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes. Yeah. So
That's the scenario you'd like us to see us go
correct.
towards.
No tax levy impact. It'll stay level, and we get to keep that cash in the general fund.
But then in the long run, we pay the extra 50 or 45.
Yeah.
Over the 20-year life.
So are we back to that 275, taking that out again? Or does that depend on what we do?
Nope, that's a separate decision. So that's more of, what do you want your debt service tax impact to be? Do you want to maintain that level impact? If so, $275,000 is the hole to plug in which you would issue those funds for 2027 projects now. Or I know Ben has some other projects for 2026 potentially that those funds could be used for.
And it's kind of built in. What Ariana is talking about is that 275 would then go towards funding those 2027, 2028 capital projects. And I have 2027, 2028 just to give the board a little bit more of a future looking viewpoint. So we don't have to tackle everything that I had in the memo next year, but just kind of to let you know what's on the horizon.
Well, for the village, best right now would be to float it even as much as we can.
In my opinion, that's what I would prefer.
Well,
That
that's,
would be our recommendation too, because we know you're going to be issuing additional debt in the future. So
Right,
if it drops now, it's inevitable that it's going to have to increase in the future.
Right, instead of making this big swale,
Yep.
to just keep it level across.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's opposing that. I think the real concern was the 100 and whatever,
39.
130 some $1,000. What we do with that money. I think that was really the biggest concern of the board. I think we pretty much agree that we should, like to keep taxes level, right? One year dip, no one remembers the dip. They're gonna remember it next year when it's gotta go back up, right? So if we do this, I think that's,
That's a separate discussion because it's gonna cost you $11,000 to avoid a dip, which I don't quite understand. But the issue right now is what do we do with the funds? I think that's a separate discussion, correct?
Yeah,
So-
two different
so
discussions.
Two different discussions.
Ambulance proceeds and then issuance for 26.
So the ambulance monies are making then, like 3-something% in theory?
In the money market right now, it's about 3.6%.
And we're
with-
paying 1.9 roughly.
So would it make sense to do nothing with these monies?
Yeah, if you wanted to keep it on hand, it would just help build your unassigned fund balance, which would put you slightly over your policy, meaning if you have an operational deficit in the future, you can draw on those funds, use that to plug your gap without being out of compliance of your fund balance policy.
And Ben anticipates that we're gonna need to draw on those funds.
It's my fear that at some point, I would say before 2030, if no action is taken on behalf of the state, that it could be a possibility. I'm not saying that I anticipate it, but I want to be prepared as we can be, just because, again, we are such a small municipality and we do operate on only $2.8 million, of which half of that is tax money. So that's just my concern.
The other thing I'll say is if you would decide to hold those funds this year, you're not committed to holding those funds forever. You could always decide to prepay or redeem future debt next year or in 5 years, whatever that means.
Well, it seems to make sense because if we're paying 1.99 but making 3.6, we're still winning in this matter. So it almost makes sense just to sit on that and wait at this point, based on what we're seeing.
yeah, versus doing amendments and.
Yeah.
So it's technically not a loss to hold it for right now.
No, you're gonna be making a little money.
Yeah, but we're still gonna be losing maybe 45,000 over the length of the one note.
Correct.
True.
If we don't pay it.
Correct.
If we don't redeem it.
But we already,
But
oh,
that's-
we already
that we already
anticipated
budgeted
that
for.
loss.
Yeah, we
when we
anticipated
Took out the
that.
loan, right?
That is true, that it was already built in.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's been built in, so that, I mean,
Waiting might not be so bad because then we'll have a better handle on 2027 then.
agreed.
And we're not gonna
But
need.
until
it,
you
I mean.
brought all these great
Mhm.
information
Mhm.
from our questions, we wouldn't have that
No,
information.
We wouldn't know. Wouldn't know.
Okay, so on the issue then, do you need a motion at all for anything on this? Yes.
Yes, I would prefer a motion directing
Possible action.
us on how to proceed.
Okay, I think we've heard two ways we could do it, and does someone want to make a motion
So it's
on,
basically hold on to it.
hold on to it,
sit
do
tight,
nothing?
Or use it to pay down the 2018.
Correct.
Holding on to it gives us a little more preparation for the unexpected.
Correct.
And what we're risking then is not saving that 45,000.
That
We-
we,
By holding on
that
to it.
we anticipated anyways.
But next year, if we wanted, we could pay off 2018 at any time.
Yep.
When we have a better financial picture.
Okay.
So 6 months, 8 months isn't terrible to wait to see what we got.
But
Agreed.
is the decision we're making now to borrow the 275?
No.
No, this is
There's
about the
the two,
ambulance
it's the
money.
two items. So it's the borrowing of the 275
different,
and what to do with the ambulance
Yep.
money.
Basically, two things you'd like us to
Oh.
move on.
Correct.
Okay, so
Under this one item.
under item A,
They're both.
Yeah,
both-
under old business, yes.
So we need two motions under that old business?
I would say two motions would be good.
Okay.
I still want to talk about the 275.
Right, so that's,
So-
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to hold on to the ambulance proceeds until we have a better outlook with next year or the year after.
I'll second that.
I heard Eric and Tom.
Fine.
Motion has been made and seconded to, on the first part of this capital funding, to hold on to the ambulance funds. Is there any discussion on that particular motion? And we're still gonna have another motion after that, part of the same category. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. That part of the motion passes. And then we need to discuss under the same topic, a motion to talk about the $275,000.
And that would be a motion to draw it from the state.
Well,
Yeah,
that,
so it would really be moving forward with scenario one, either as depicted or with the 2027 capital projects at X. So as depicted would match slide number 6 in my presentation, showing that you're borrowing that roughly $600,000. That 600,000 includes the remaining portion of the water projects that you don't have funds on hand for, plus the 275 for future capital. So it's really that total par amount that you want to borrow for that we want that direction.
but just to be clear, the only reason we're borrowing the 275 is to prevent a dip in the tax. And that's the only reason.
Yes, I mean, in general, yes. I will say the village in the past has borrowed for 2 years of projects at a time, so this isn't an anomaly in that regard in terms of borrowing for future projects now.
I think we're borrowing for 27 capital, and a benefit of it is it maintains a
Yeah, correct.
Yes,
zero tax levy.
and you're not borrowing for
'Cause we're
all
not-
of 27 projects now because you
It's
don't
just-
know what those amounts are.
Just a portion
So
of
just
it.
a portion of it now to help keep a level tax
And
impact.
doing a little bit of it now helps us maintain a level tax.
And that's based on estimates of what the 2027 capital improvements projects will be.
I mean, it's really based on the amount that you would need to borrow for to keep a level tax impact. So 275,000 is that par amount. I don't know what your 27 borrowing plan will be, but based on historical, it's typically been between 1 million and $1.5 million. So I think it's safe to say upon discussions with Ben that at minimum, you will at least need those funds for 2027. Is that fair?
Correct.
Correct.
So we'll be using them fairly fast. Got it.
So how would you like this worded?
I would just, are we gonna, any more discussion? I'm satisfied with the answer. So if everyone's in agreement, then it would just be a motion to go with scenario one to, how would you word that?
I would just say to move forward with the 2026 borrowing per scenario one as depicted. Because as depicted kind of indicates that the dollar amounts we've shown are what you'd be borrowing for.
So moved.
We have.
Or she said, yeah.
Is there a
So
second?
I'll just say that the motion is to move forward with the 2026 borrowing scenario in scenario one as depicted.
Yes. And a motion was made by Michael. And anyone do a second?
I'll do the second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben, would it be helpful for me to stick around for the capital?
Yeah, if you
discussion?
can hang around.
Absolutely.
Super.
Okay, new business.
One, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
On the presentation. Okay, new business item A, discussion on the 27 through 28 capital fund projects.
So as I depicted in the memo, we're getting ready for budget season. I officially kick off the budget in June. So, and in the past, again, the board has stated that they wanted to kind of get, an early picture of the budget, kind of work through some of these items. It's ahead of time instead of waiting till September, October, and it's kind of like go, 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 pass type of attitude. So I'm just bringing to the attention of the board the 2027 and 2028 capital fund projects that we're looking at. I believe that, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that we have one more squad that we're looking at replacing, and then we'll be pretty much completed with that. Plus, we'll have some of those, I think that we talked about possibly with the warranties and whatnot, so they'll be covered for a couple of years with any of the full any type of issues that come up with them. We have a DPW truck that's going to come due, I believe, in 2028. There's various smaller projects that are going to be scattered around Village Hall and the library, including copiers, windows, a roof on the village. All of these were scheduled for between 2027 and 2029. that we're looking at just kind of putting in front of you. I'm working currently to get quotes on various different things to see kind of what we can finesse and what we can get done in the next year or two. But I wanted to kind of talk to you and see what your priorities are. Again, what I had listed was just a very preliminary listing of what I expect is going to need to be replaced in 2027 and 2028. I have not yet gotten a full detailing from each of the departments on what they may need in the next couple of years. But just in my brief conversations, the ones that I have listed are the ones that came first to mind. So if you have any questions for me, I do want to just at least get an idea of where you want me to kind of prioritize. Do you want me to prioritize replacement of equipment? Do you want me to focus on improvements to the village hall and the library and DPW facility? I guess I just want to see where you want me to focus my attention and focus the funds for next year.
Yes. Some of the big ticket items, I mean, we're looking at like $250,000 for the police department again coming up, right? So the 68,000 for this, you're saying next year we're getting one more squad car. What does that put us on? What cycle is that? Then how many years do we not buy a car?
I believe that, Joe, have you had any conversations with Chief Zaluski on the squad rotation?
Somewhat. The goal with that would be we'd be under.
You want to just come up to the microphone?
We would be under the warranty for each year. We would not be responsible for a lot of the major repairs on the squad at that point. And then every, it was 5 or 6 years, we would swap that old squad out for the new.
So after 27, we go every 4 to 5 years. To be realistic, right?
To be, yeah.
To be realistic, 4 to 5 years, then every 4 to 5 years, a new squad would come in.
Well, it would be to replace, I think it would be a little more.
Well, you take one out, but we would buy one every 4 to 5 years to replace the old one.
Correct, yes.
So instead of doing one a year for the last, 3 years, 4 years? To try to catch up, right? All right.
The goal is, we would spend a lot of money on maintenance. All the time. The goal is to avoid that.
And by having newer vehicles, it's covered under warranty. A lot of it is, yeah.
The extended warranties, in theory, should benefits budget of the PD long term.
And then another 115 for radios.
That's another, I guess, unknown, because we don't know, we have a grant out there that we don't know what we're gonna get. I don't think we're 100% sure what.
But outside of any grants,
I think
we
that's
can't
approximate.
figure that in. So it's $115,000 was.
I think that's a close approximation.
Correct. That, I believe, was the quote that Brian received from Motorola. That was the discounted price. And again, as you had stated, it does not include any type of grant money that we would get. And it also does not include the sale of the current fire department radios, which I have put out feelers to, I think, 3 municipalities on, and I have gotten responses from each of the 3 saying that they're interested. So I'm moving forward with that. But that also does not take into account if those were to sell at, whatever they sell at, that would then offset that
Yeah,
115,000.
Okay, and what's the roof situation here? What's the timeline of what you're looking at on the roof? Is
Yes,
it
so
1 year, 2 years, 5 years,
So what we were
immediate?
looking at getting it done in 2028. Jim, when he was here, had a couple contractors go up there. Some of them said that it needed more immediate work. Others said that it could wait till about 2028. I believe that this roof was redone, I want to say roughly around when the building was remodeled. I want to say.
I know it was done then.
Yeah, so it's been roughly like 18 or so years then. So I believe that right now there is cracking. They've had to do patchwork and whatnot. We are getting occasional areas. I think the police department had something.
Thank you guys for showing up.
Thank you. I believe that we had some leakages in the PD area, and we do have one in the administrative area. So we do have some issues in the fire department too. So it seems like this is something that is going to need to be addressed pretty soon. with that. DPW goes up there and they patch it, but then, you know, it's baking in the sun. It's a rubber roof, so there's more cracks that form.
So that's actually more immediate than,
Well, 2080 has it in.
yeah.
And I will also, as I noted in my memo, we have been putting away money into the fund, into the capital fund balance to offset any of those expenses. So we do have some money in that fund balance that we can spend down to assist with that payment.
Sounds like that's a priority. I mean, the squad car, we gotta stay on
Yep.
target with those. So what is it I mean, the one thing that stands out here is that I saw copy machines. I thought those were like leased or something, or you pay per copy?
So the village owns those machines and we pay a monthly fee for
Maintenance
basically
fee.
how many pages we print.
For supplies.
So they call them like click charges basically. So per page, it's like a cent for black and white and like 3 cents for color.
Yeah.
So they charge us every month for that service, and it also includes maintenance is included and toner. We just have to pay you the shipping cost of the toner.
So do we need a new one, or is it just?
No, so this is PD in the library. The libraries is very poor. It's printing double. It's ghost printing. It's breaking quite often. They've had, I think Charlene, they've had the guy there at least 2 to 3 times this year alone. So theirs is in desperate need of getting replaced, and the PD's is old and slow. And I had James
4 years
Imaging come
old.
in.
Old and slow.
Old and slow.
Well, I would say old. It could be slow, but 4 years isn't old.
But
I mean, I don't know copiers, right? But maybe it's old for a copier.
well,
It
I
seems
can't.
like a lot. 6,000, and it's only 4 years old.
So the 2022 one was for the administration one, the one that I have. Theirs is older than that. The 2022 copier that I mentioned in the memo was for administration.
It just says, that's confusing, that it says police copier.
And then I believe that,
Well, there is a.
Oh, okay,
comma.
you're saying like 2 copiers.
correct, sorry,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
Well, one copier was $6,000, not 2.
yeah. So the
two
one,
copiers is 12,000.
again, the
or
one that
more.
we had is a little bit more, I would just say specialized than I think that the PD might need, because yours is a little bit, is more basic. But the concern that I have with theirs is that I had James Imaging come in, because they, were going around and soliciting, like, oh, hey, well, we need some new copiers at some point. And they did look up the type of printer that they have. It is not going to be in service for the software and the patching here soon. And they said that could potentially lead it for some security issues where people could get through the copier, since it is hooked up to the internet and to the server, that they could use the back door to get through there if it's not being maintained. So that's kind of why we want to get a new one in there as well.
I thought, okay, so the monthly maintenance fee does not cover the machine itself? Or
Correct. That covers basically the toner and any type of maintenance that needs to happen on it from the techs coming in. So like, we don't pay for when the techs come in. We don't pay a visit fee or labor fee, anything like that.
Okay.
So it's just toner.
Well,
It's a
toner and
3
maintenance.
cents a page just
Checking
for
the
toner.
oil.
Well, it's for the toner, and it's to cover any type of maintenance parts and whatnot. We don't pay for any of that. So when the library called the tech out the 3 times, we didn't pay for any of that.
We need some new security. Isn't that part of it? It's a
Well,
part.
Sometimes on these machines, you'll have to look into it. It's like that other Pitney Bowes stuff. If I think you pay more, they buy the machine, like you almost lease the machine. There's different options.
Correct. There are different options that are available, but regardless, the machines themselves are, and I think that Joe, you've had the copier guy out there a couple times last year for issues with it.
So it sounds like the roof is important.
Mhm.
Windows, I think, have been a problem since the remodel. A lot of this goes back to the remodel of 2010, when they didn't do things maybe the best or
Adequately,
the
yeah.
cheap. So then the server, so kind of everything. I mean, the only thing that we could maybe hold off would be the lawnmower and the station pumps.
Yeah, the station pumps, the mower, and I think the DPW truck, those are all, I think, 28 items that we could, push off. They're not in desperate need of repair.
Do you think we'll get another year out of these copy machines?
Not the libraries.
You want to think about that answer?
Well, won't the library be under their own fund?
Not for capital. No, we take care of their capital.
We do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good gig.
Yeah, though that machine at the library is probably, well, it's like a 2017 or 2018. I mean, because that got updated when because we talked to that person that came in, and I don't think we had to buy that machine. That's what's coming back to me, was maybe we paid a little more per copy, and then they gave us the machine.
Because I don't get any type of lease, unless I don't get any type of payment, like things for any type of lease with that one.
I don't know. Yeah, check into that. I think that's ringing a bell. I can find out as well. Okay, so what else do you need from us then, Ben? Do you have your answer?
I have my answer. I know kind of what we need to be looking at. And like I said, I'm going to be gathering quotes here on this stuff. So I'll have a better picture. Hopefully in the next month, I'm going to be having Caitlin and Victoria reach out and gather those quotes on our behalf. So we should be, I know that Caitlin's already, like for the windows and stuff, she has five vendors that she's going to be contacting here shortly. So we should be good to go on that.
Okay, and then Charlene, if you could check into the copier, that'd be great. And get back to us on that. Okay, any other discussions on capital 27 through 28 for right now? Ben?
No.
You're good? Does the board have any other input on item A?
No.
All right, item B, discussion and possible action on change order number 1 for the 2026 water main
Thank you.
replacement
Thanks.
Thank you.
and road construction project in the amount not to exceed $107,227.35.
So this change order, we did make a mention of that in both Ariana's presentation, and I do believe I mentioned this to the board a couple of times in communications with them, with you. Basically, this is as a result of the sewer televising that we did. We did not have the results of that back when we went out for bid. We were running up against a deadline to go out for bid. We hadn't gotten that stuff back from Busy Sewer. So what this is basically adding on to the already existing road project, authorizing the incurment of those costs and then the completion of those projects. As I outlined before, we have several sanitary and storm sewers on 124th Street that are encountering spiral fractures that are at risk of failure if they're not properly addressed. So they're going to be doing lining there. But then there is, I believe, a sanitary sewer where there is a very large hole on the top of the sewer main where there's a tree that punctured that hole through that top of it. So that obviously needs to get actually replaced. They're going to have to excavate, cut that area, and then replace it. So that is what this $107,227 was going to be going towards. And obviously it's necessary work that really needs to happen, or we're going to see future issues down the road.
And this went through R.A. Smith?
Yes, this went through R.A. Smith. They have all the plans together.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for the change order number 1, not to exceed $107,227.35.
I'll second that. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Item C, Resolution 26-09, a resolution requesting action on behalf of the state legislature and the governor of Wisconsin to enact comprehensive and sustainable transportation funding solutions.
So this is a resolution that was put out by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities to all municipalities. The Wisconsin Towns Association, the Wisconsin Counties Association is also putting out this resolution to basically all municipalities and county governments to express to the legislature that it's time to get pardon my French, kind of get the rear in gear when it comes to transportation aid funding. They sent out this whole memo that I printed off that if you would like, I can read. But basically, it states that the current transportation funding solution that the state has is not adequate. We need to have an overhaul of it, and we need to be having more funding coming to the villages, cities, and towns to fund the extensive road projects that need to happen. The detail all of the poor road conditions and bridge conditions that are currently here. And a key point from here, from 2000 to 2025, the consumer price index increased by 90.7%, and the investment in general transportation aids increased only 60.4% during that time. So there's that about a 30% difference in the prices versus what they're funding us at. So we're not even keeping up with inflation with how much we're getting from the state. So this resolution is urging them to take action in this next legislative session that's going to be coming up in 2027 after the election to get this done and to help out municipalities fund their roads.
Is well explained. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass resolution 26-09.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned at 7:01 PM. Thank you.